I'm ready.
Are we up? Can you hear me okay out there? Okay, good. Hey, welcome everybody to the Sarpy County and City's Wastewater Agency meeting. Today is Wednesday, September 25th, 2024. It's 4 o'clock. Copy of the Nebraska Open Meeting Act is located on the north wall of the agency boardroom. In attendance today, we have the Mayor of Springfield, Bob Roseland, the Mayor of Gretna, Mike Evans, the Mayor of La Vista, Doug Kendig, the Mayor of Bellevue, Rusty Hike, the Mayor of Papillion, David Black. I'm Don Kelly, a Sarpy County Commissioner. We also have our agency administrator, Dan Hoynes, our project engineer, Jeff Thompson, our legal counsel, Adam Charlson, and our secretary for the board proceedings is Lisa Hare. If you haven't already, please silence your cell phone. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any announcements or comments from the agency board?
I should have kept it.
Oh, I got the gavel. That's kind of nice.
Yeah, you can bang it all day. You know, I've been coming to this courthouse for almost 12 years now. I've never banged this thing on.
Yeah, I never have either.
Now, I've swung it around at a few people. All right, let's go, Dan. You're up. Dan Hoynes, Agency Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, member mayors. Just real briefly, the last month there's been a lot of effort put towards a review of our agency master plan. I've referenced it several times. Where we're at today is I think we will be in a position to submit an amendment to the map that's required, that's pretty limited in terms of changes. It's just more engineering and technical recommendations. That's pretty important to get done. So it's tentatively scheduled. I meet with the admins tomorrow, meet with them again October 10th, and hopefully put it on for the October 23rd agency meeting. Important to note that in order for it to be in effect, it has to be presented to each of your governing bodies. So the time frame after the agency would be to work with your administrators to have your governing bodies consider that change between October 23rd and the end of the year, and should put us in a good place. Also in the process of researching reimbursement policies. That's a complicated issue, but continue to look at options and have a work session scheduled with all of your administrators on October 24th, day after our next meeting, to roll our sleeves up. Between now and then, I'm looking at as many options as I can for discussion. I think it's going to be critical as we try to meet development pressures with our limited funds, that we do some type of reimbursement. We did last month, completed the recruitment, more on that of the treasurer in a few minutes. But continue meeting with Springfield to consistently have a draft document that I think we're really close on with a member service agreement. We have another meeting scheduled next week, and continue to work with Sarpy County on the member service agreement. You'll recall I advised you last month that the importance of those is to execute those agreements, get those lines connected, and because we have rate revenues projected into our budget effective January 1. One other brief item, when we get to the last agenda item, 8, on the construction proposal price, Bonnie gave me a call, Administrator Moore, this afternoon. She had requested a change that I agree with, that the agency attorney agrees with and Jeff agrees with, but I'll explain that more on that agenda item, just so you know that I'll take a minute or two of your time to walk through that. So with that, I'll conclude my comments, and we'll answer any questions you may have.
Questions for Dan? Comments? Okay, thank you, Dan. Agency project engineer report, Jeff Thompson.
Chairman Kelly. Chairman Kelly.
Should be on.
Chairman Kelly. Agency member mayors, Jeff Thompson, project engineer for the agency. Pleased to report that the Hawkins team has finalized all the installation of the sanitary sewer piping. So 100% of the pipe is in the ground. Significance of that, last 2 years, about 42 miles of pipe has been installed from basically Harlan Lewis Road and Highway 34 all the way over to Springfield. So a lot of work has taken place over the last couple of years. Great team that we put together for that, and they're excelling in every aspect of the project. So really not a lot to show here related to construction other than the lift station sites that are remaining. Actually, this is the Mitchell Road lift station. This lift station is 100% complete. Been patiently waiting for OPPD to come out and energize the transformer to get us permanent power so we can actually put this thing through its paces and get it ready for commissioning and placement into service once the lift station in Springfield's complete. This cannot go into service until we get the lift station in Springfield complete. So patiently waiting on Hawkins with that. So this is just a view looking south and east of that lift station site there again off Mitchell Road between 99th and 108th Street. And then this is just a top view drone shot looking straight down. One thing you might notice a little bit different from this lift station site than you see at the Zweibel Creek lift station sites, this big tank right here. That's where our odor control chemical is housed. But for all intents and purposes, they're very similar in nature and size. And then jumping over to the Springfield lift station site, you can see they're actively working there. The wet well is complete as far as the structural components, the walls, the lid, the hatches are all complete. The distribution secant system is ready for the lowering of the manhole structure that will be put inside that secant system there. And we've run into some issues with the soil conditions down there. They're very, very poor, so we had to kind of take a step back with Hawkins and look at some alternative construction methods to work that soil to get it to a situation where we can actually dewater it and or place the pipe. So this is a picture looking south and east as well. This is pretty much straight south. You can see the water level there at 10 feet down. And then the soil conditions, as I said, are really rough. So we're using a soil mixing system where they're actually injecting grout into the sand and silty soils that are there as they're augering down to create a firm base for that pipe to bed on. So. And then this is just a top view of the whole site at Springfield's wastewater treatment facility, showing the wet well system here, the 2 valve vaults, metering vault, and the distribution manhole. So, be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions for Jeff? Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Consent agenda, one item, minutes, unless any agency member wants to see that moved to the regular agenda. I'm sorry, there are actually 2. And the claims report. If you'd like to see either of those moved to the regular agenda, I'll take a motion. Otherwise, we'll approve as published.
Motion to approve. Second, Bellevue.
Okay, motion by Papillion and a second by Bellevue to approve the consent agenda. Any other questions or comments? Please vote.
Yea, 6, nays none, motion carried.
Okay, on the regular agenda, item 5 is Resolution 2437, tabled from July 24, 2024, originally as Resolution 2024-29, and renumbered to Resolution 37, denying an exception request under the agency's growth management plan in connection with the proposed development of certain land in the city of Springfield's extraterritorial jurisdiction. Dan Hoynes, Agency Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, member mayors. As you're well aware, this was tabled on July 22 until today's date. On August 5th, I did receive a list of 26 additional questions from Mr. Giff. I worked with the agency attorney, the agency planning consultant, the project engineer, and to respond to those questions. Mr. Giff has been provided a copy of those responses that are also included in your packet. So I would just submit the matter for your consideration on the staff reports.
Okay, questions for Dan or comments? Motion?
Discussion.
Well, it's not a public hearing, but, I'll give you 5 minutes to come up and address the board.
Member mayors and Chairman Kelly, Marty Giff, 2211 Thurston Circle, Bellevue, Nebraska. With regards to this follow-up resolution. A couple things I'd like to say, one being that for the record, with regard to the administrator monthly report stating that on September, that came out today, stating that I was provided, the agency staff and consultants offered a response to all 26 questions. I'd like to let it be known that no one ever contacted me. Nobody ever sent me anything. I never got any mail. I never got anything until I opened the packet this morning. It's the first I knew of any of these answers. Or I shouldn't even call them answers, responses. But that being said, I'm surprised I had to wait 2 months for the responses that I got. The questions that I submitted, the 26 questions, were specific to the prior analysis and recommendation of the engineer, Mr. Thompson, and the planner, Mr. Jensen. When I say that I wasn't given much for answers, but rather responses, I give you an example. For example, my questions 1, 3, and 5 pertain to how my 2 homes would negatively impact the sewer trunk line from an engineering perspective. The answer was any change outside the flow rate would increase the flow rate. Well, according to the information included in that, in some of those answers, a four-person home yields 332 gallons of wastewater a day. The sewer line capacity for my 19.7 acres is 1,362 gallons a day. So the 1,362 gallon line flow capacity divided by the 332 gallons per home means that that line is designed, it should handle 4.10 homes. It seemed to me the simple math shows that, okay, the line as it's designed is 4.1 homes. I'm asking for 2. I think then that the correct answer, or the accurate, and not the response, the answer would have been that there is no engineering issue that's caused by the request that I'm asking for with 2 homes. With regard to the flow capacity on the line that's designed for this property. With regard to the planning side of it, Mr. Jensen, his original analysis stated that since the applicant has requested to not follow the agency fee schedule, they do not meet the requirements. Therefore, an exception request cannot be considered. That's basically the same request that applies for all of the previous exception requests that have been granted, and it's to go from a per acre to a per lot basis. I'm asking the same thing, so I don't understand that comment and that reasoning, and that being the reason, his reasoning for denial. My request agrees to follow the fee schedule and to follow all the requirements of the sewer agency. I'm only asking to be charged on a per lot as opposed to a per acre basis. So there's, as you know, there's 4 criteria that should be considered when determining whether an exception can be applied, and only one has to be met. They're A, B, C, and D. A has to do with whether there was a prior plat of the property. There wasn't, so that doesn't come into play at all. B has to do with will the approval of an exception request further another important comp plan objective of a member? The subject property is in in Springfield zoning, and it's zoned AR, agricultural residential. It's intended for low density housing of 5+ acre lots, nothing smaller. You can't put anything smaller, and we've had that discussion. So the sewer fee schedule makes that financially impossible because the sewer fees are almost 2 times what land is worth, which is absolutely ridiculous. The property can only feasibly be used for its zoned and highest and best use, with the exception being granted on the sewer fees to a per lot basis as opposed to a per acre basis, or else the highest and best use, you can't do anything. And financially, all you can do is farm it. So, almost done. The other 2 exception criteria are C and D. C has to do with whether a granting one will allow division of a property for estate planning between family members, and D, leave me alone. And D has to do with approval of an exception request will create a single lot to transfer to an immediate family member for construction of a home. This is my plan to build 2 homes for a single for family members. C and D. So the only reason that I've read anywhere that is basis for denial for criteria C and D pertain to the date a property was acquired. But I trust that you all are familiar with the GMP policy and the exception criteria within it. I could tell you there's nowhere in that GMP that has anything to do with the date of acquisition of a property. It does talk about whether you want to transfer it to a family member or do it for estate planning, but there's nothing in there about when you bought your property. So I cannot follow. I've been given no explanation as to why B, C, or D do not apply in my situation. With regards to what was put out in the packet this morning, Mr. Hoynes, responded to question 16. They're outright lies. They're not correct. It says that on 8/8/23, I acknowledge that the per acre fee was a problem. It was never a problem. When I bought my property, my survey says it's 20.1 acres. At that point, I don't have any problem. So that is incorrect. And then he also wrote in there that I agreed to build one home now and work with Springfield on a new comp plan. That's not what I agreed to. If I would have agreed to that, I wouldn't have to be here at all. So what's stated in there is, for the record, is incorrect. So in conclusion, the administrator's recommendation is based solely on the recommendations of the engineer and the planner. There is no engineering problems. Nobody's told me, nobody's told you about an engineering problem. And with regard to a planning, we got items, criteria B, C, and D. B absolutely is met. C and D, I believe, are met because, again, there is nothing to do with date of acquisition. But you only have to meet one of those criteria. What's crazy is an owner of a 5 to 20 acre vacant piece of land in Springfield has no possible use except crop production anymore without being granted exception requests by this board. But if I have an old obsolete home on it that was built in 1910, then I'm granted the exception automatically because I'm replacing a house. It's ridiculous. I mean, so it's beneficial to have an old junk foundation on your house or an old house? That doesn't make any sense. Finally, I believe that property owner should have the right to use his or her property for its zoned purpose without being charged excessive fees that make that use financially unfeasible. The sewer agency, with this policy, is taking most of those rights away. That's wrong, and you know it. I can't use my property for its zoned highest and best use without that being residential acreage without your approval of the current. Without your approval, I'm sorry. The current zoning will not allow me to do anything else. I can't build smaller lots. I can't put a dense subdivision. I can't do anything else with it. Okay. This is a unique condition because of the Springfield zoning and their zoning districts, and the exception request the exception as requested should be granted. So,
Any questions or comments for Mr. Gill?
I'm here for any questions.
Questions or comments? Dan, you want to address any of them?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. In regards to me notifying Mr. Giff, I can't confirm he received an email that I sent on Friday inviting him. I don't have it with me. I can check that, so I wouldn't contend if he didn't get it. He didn't get it. I would believe what he said. I will say this, Friday afternoon, this agenda was published in a legal manner. It was available to the public, including Mr. Giff, Friday afternoon when it was published, and all of this information was readily available Friday afternoon, and he knew this was tabled to this specific day. That would be my response. I can't confirm that the email went that I sent, but in terms of his access to this information, he clearly had it. He clearly knew this meeting was going on today. In terms of I guess, outright lies, everything that I took off of there came from emails either between Mr. Giff, the city of Springfield, the agency, or meetings that were conducted. And I would be more than glad to provide those to the agency board that those statements were made.
I would like to see them,
Jeff, do you have any response to the engineering? Okay. All right, thanks, Mr. Giff.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a resolution to deny the exception request. Does anybody want to make a motion on that?
So moved.
Second. Well, then I'll second it so we can have a discussion. So I have a motion by LaVista, second by Sarpy. Okay, discussion.
So Dan, how many of these have we turned down that are similar request?
I don't think we have denied any. I think any that have come before, now internally, we tell people they don't qualify and they don't get to this level. But there's multiple times where we answer questions and people just accept our response and don't come. But there's been nothing that somebody has decided to come in and contest what the staff is saying.
The only waivers I can remember we approving did have a home on it that they replaced, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Has any thing changed in the growth management plan since it was originally drafted that has changed the rules for if a plat is required, that the agency fees would kick in? And that if you buy a property that's existing and it doesn't require a replat because you're just going to move into the house, or perhaps you might be tearing it down and building a new house instead. No plats required. So then in that case, you get a per lot fee, right?
I think I might defer to the attorney on this one, just to get it right.
If I understand your question right, you're asking.
So the question I have, let me rephrase it. It's probably confusing you. If a new plat is required, the agency fees take precedence, correct?
Correct.
And has that ever changed? Has there ever been, since the agency drafted the growth management plan, has that been the case?
Well, it's that piece isn't specifically codified in the growth management plan. It's in our rate and fee structure, our fee policies, and I can't cite chapter and verse of that, but we do cover scenarios where if a plat's not required but a building permit is, then fees are paid in this manner.
Okay.
So that is a thing, and that ties back to what is the meaning of development that does trigger growth management plan things, and we refer in the growth management plan, development goes to the member jurisdictions definition of that. At least in this case, the proposed construction would meet Springfield's definition of development. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. Any other comments or questions?
I suspect it isn't the only time we'll see this. And so it feels like we need to find our footing on what's fair and what's right and what's meeting the intent of the agency, because somebody's going to use it for their own purposes, puts a burden on them. But if you're trying to create equity or wealth, then it's different. I don't think it'll be so I think we need to be consistent with how we approach it, and we just got to look at, big picture, but also, personal lives.
I don't think there's any surprise here. I think, when we set up the agency that we knew this would come about. That's what that model is built on. So I think it kind of turns that model upside down once you make an exception. And, we're back. That's a big problem.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Okay, so just a reminder, the motion is and second is to deny the exception request under the agency's growth management plan. Please vote.
Yeas 5, abstain, Gretna. Motion carries.
Okay, item number 6 is Resolution 38, appointing and authorizing the employment agreement for a new treasurer of the Sarpy County and Cities Wastewater Agency, Dan Hoynes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, member mayors. As you all know, we've been in a search for a treasurer. We went through a process where we advertised and received about 35 applications, did some initial screening, brought us to today. We'd like to present the name of Mark Setout as the next agency treasurer. Mark grew up in South Omaha, graduated from Omaha South High School, has an undergraduate degree from Bellevue University in, I think, finance accounting, and recently minted, I think, wet, still dry on an MBA from the University of Nebraska at Omaha. He has progressively risen in responsibilities and authorities in his career. While there's not specific government experience, it certainly is consistent with the type of accounting that we would need. I'm confident for whatever government rules and regs that he would need, that he's more than able to pick those up. Tony will help us in transition, at least through the end of the year, and then be a phone call away. So I would respectfully request approval. If you have any questions, he's here after the vote. I'm going to ask Mark, if it's affirmative, maybe to come up and address the board, and he's got a couple of important people with him he may want to introduce. So request approval.
Okay. Motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by La Vista and a second by Springfield. Any comments or questions? Please vote.
Yeas 6, nays none, motion carried.
Thank you. Congratulations, Mark and Jill. If you guys want to come up and introduce your family, we would appreciate that.
Thank you.
They didn't know they were going to do extemporaneous speaking today. So.
Let alone sing their high school fight songs. But
What's that? Well, thank you, everyone from the board. I'm looking forward to this opportunity. I started my career in accounting at Griffin Pipe Products, so I have some understanding of what the agency is working towards, and I hope that bringing that accounting background and the technical work that I did at Griffin Pipe to kind of bring that all together and help the agency grow. I think this is a great opportunity for Sarpy County and the economic growth for the county and the greater Omaha area as well. So thank you. This is my wife, Jill.
Hi.
My son, Ryan, and my son, Jake. We thank you.
well, thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome aboard.
Hey,
Oh, and we're
congrats.
missing two,
We're
yes.
missing two.
Okay.
Alex and Kara. They're still at daycare, so.
But you better
Great family. Great family.
Yeah.
Look forward to working with you, Mark. Thanks for joining the team.
Likewise, thank you.
Congrats.
All right. Item number 7 is Resolution 39, approving the First Amendment to the sewer connection and wastewater service by and between Sarpy County and Cities Wastewater Agency and Raven Northbrook LLC. Jeff.
Chairman Kelly, agency member mayors, Jeff Thompson, project engineer for the agency. This amendment, pretty straightforward. Our original agreement with Raven Northbrook, which is the large data center user at Cape Hart and Highway 50, had some provisions that allowed them to recoup some costs associated with any additional capacity that they weren't reserving within the cold water blowdown line. This amendment addresses what the costs associated with that reimbursement would be should somebody, another user, ask to use that capacity, as well as adjusting the overall price of the project. It came in significantly more than what was in the original agreement. Meta, Facebook, Raven, they did pay for that additional expense, and they're just asking to be recouped for that. One further item it does address, there's a removal and replacement schedule based on the project's original cost. We adjusted that project schedule based on actual costs as well, so that over the next 80 years they'll be making payments that will hold in a reserve account for long-term removal and replacement of that line. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions for Jeff? Motion, please.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion by Papillion, second by Bellevue. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Yeas 6, nays none, motion carries.
Okay, item 8 is Resolution 40, approving the construction phase price proposal, CPP number 13 for the wastewater system. Jeff?
If I may interject,
Oh, yeah.
Mr.
You're
Chair.
gonna talk
I'd
about
like to
some
approach, there's
changes
a
here?
proposed amendment I'll explain real quickly, and then
Yeah.
Jeff can answer questions.
Thank you. Dan Hoynes, Agency Administrator.
So it's really pretty straightforward and simple. The document's the resolution itself. It doesn't change anything contractually. The change is on the second page in legislative strike-through format. Let it make its way over to Mayor Roseland. You'll see what we're requesting is an amendment to strike this language in this resolution. The purpose of it is this is a timing issue. Allowing, and again, Bonnie Moore had called me this afternoon and requested this strike. I agree with it. I talked to the agency attorney, the agency engineer. This gives us more flexibility to go ahead and get this project going to assure it's done in January. We'll come back with the member service agreement that will codify the terms and conditions, but I'm really confident we can get an answer. This gives us flexibility. The county requested it, and we support it. So if there's any on the specific agreement, Jeff stands ready to answer your questions.
Questions for Dan or Jeff? Motion, please.
I'll make a motion to approve with the amended language.
Second.
Motion by La Vista and a second by Springfield to approve the amended resolution. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Yeas 6, nays none, motion carried.
Okay, our next meeting is going to be October 23rd, 2024, and all agenda items having been addressed as published, the Sarpy County and Cities Wastewater Agency Board is adjourned. Thank you.